Carnival Cruise Line has extended their pre-cruise testing in the terminal program through the end of December of this year. Crew members from Norwegian Cruise Lines have sent a letter up the chains within their company, accusing the company of only being motivated by money and not acting in the best interest of the crew. We'll tell you what the complaints are from NCL's crew members. Cruisers from the US, UK, Canada, and Australia now have another country worth of home ports that you can take cruises from. Plus, we've detailed what Key West has to say about cruise ships a lot on this channel, and now there is new news as cruising has officially resumed down in Key West. All this coming up on Midships. Hey, welcome to the Midships YouTube channel. I'm your Captain Corey, and thank you so much for stopping by the channel today. Well, as you can see, I'm finally back in the Orlando, Florida area, and we are just officially 2 days away from my next cruise aboard Royal Caribbean's Adventure of the Seas. I'll be cruising out of Galveston, Texas on December 1st. So if you're planning to be aboard Adventure of the Seas for the sailing and you run into me, don't be scared to come over and say hello. Now, there's tons of cruise news to get into, so let's dive into a story coming from MSC Cruise Lines. From cruiseradio.net by Sarah Bretz. MSC Cruises Christens' brand new ship in Dubai. MSC has officially named its newest ship the MSC Virtuosa. The vessel was christened at Port Rashid in Dubai on Saturday. As she has done for all of the other MSC cruise ships, Hollywood star Sophia Loren acted as the godmother for the vessel, naming her in the presence of the captain as well as local dignitaries. The celebrations culminated in a fireworks display against the Dubai skyline. And that's not the only good news to report on today, because as you know, there are now multiple ports that you can set sail from, and now there's another one in Singapore. From cruiseindustrynews.com. Singapore greenlights vaccinated international passengers aboard cruises. Singapore authorities will now allow vaccinated international guests to join cruises in the country under the Vaccinated Travel Lane, or VTL scheme. According to Singapore Cruise Society, which cites the Singapore Tourism Board, fully vaccinated travelers from 21 countries can fly to Singapore and hop on board a cruise without first having to quarantine. The decision was announced on November 25th and applies to cruise ships that are homeported in Singapore and in compliance with the prevailing entry requirements of the country. The 21 countries include the following list, and I'm going to read a couple of them off for you. The big names for those of you who are probably watching the Midships family are Australia, the United States, United Kingdom, as well as Canada. And so if you're from any of the countries that I just listed, you are now able to go to Singapore to take a cruise beginning November 29th. So that would be today. Well, just a few minutes before I turned on the camera for today's episode, I happened to notice an email from Carnival Cruise Line, and I'd like to share it with you because I think it's important information. This is a guest advisory from Carnival Cruise Line's president, Christine Duffy, and I'll quickly go ahead and scan through it. Dear Carnival guest, we are looking forward to welcoming you on your upcoming cruise. As you know, current protocols require vaccinated guests to receive a pre-cruise COVID test within 2 days of their sailing. We recognize some guests may be encountering challenges securing their pre-cruise testing appointment. And for sailings departing through January 31st, 2022, a limited number of antigen tests for vaccinated guests only will be available at the cruise terminal on your day of sailing. Advanced reservations are required, and availability is on a capacity-controlled basis. A non-refundable payment of $100 per person will be collected by the testing provider at the time of reservation. And Carnival was kind enough to include reservation links to all of the ports that are offering these tests. And the ports that are offering the tests are Baltimore, Charleston, Galveston, Long Beach, New Orleans, Miami, Port Canaveral, and Port Tampa. And this seems like as good a time as any to remind you that the Abbott Binax Now home testing kits, it's the Ag Card, the dark blue box. These are the test kits that every cruiser should be using pre-embarkation. They cost somewhere between $25 and $35, depending on how many you order, and you get the results while you are on the phone with the telehealth provider. And if you have an upcoming cruise booked and you'd like to order some of these test kits from EMED or the OPTUM store, there are links down in my description below. I don't receive anything from them, but I do like to do it as a convenience factor for you guys out in the Midships family. While you're down there checking out the links, why don't you go ahead and look at some of the Amazon affiliate items that are listed at the very top of my description. Things like the passport holder with the COVID card insert or the magnetic cruise cabin hooks. These are things that I use on every single cruise that I take, and I take a lot of them these days, and I think that you would absolutely love having it around on your next cruise. Oh, and by the way, just clicking the link does help support the Midships channel just a little bit, and unfortunately I need your support because just yesterday I discovered that my laptop screen that I make all my videos on has a huge crack in it, and Apple wants almost $800 to repair the thing. So do me a favor, if you could all go and at least just click on a couple of those Amazon links just to take a look at products. I receive a little small commission on things like that. I would really appreciate it if you help me out this time. Let's go ahead and hop into an article from cruisecritic.com, get a little bit more information about what went down in Key West when 2 cruise ships ported on Saturday, by Chris Gray Faust. Cruise ships return to Key West. Debate on size still ongoing. Hey, there's Sloppy Joe's Bar. How many of you have been to Sloppy Joe's before? Last time I was at Sloppy Joe's Bar, it was the night that we got Osama bin Laden, if that tells you how long ago it was. But I distinctly remember that night, and what a celebration it was. All right, on to the article. Cruise ships return to Key West over the weekend for the first time since March of 2020, giving vessels another popular place to stop on Caribbean itineraries. The Azamara Quest and Crystal Serenity both stopped in Key West on Saturday with a combination of 911 passengers between them. The number of passengers is important as Key West is in a battle to reduce the impact of cruise ships on the island town. In November of 2020, voters in the city approved a series of referendums aimed at restricting the size and number of ships that are allowed to call on the popular Florida cruise port. The measures would have limited the number of people disembarking from the ships to 1,500 per day, as well as fully prohibiting cruise ships carrying over 1,300 people. But in the spring of 2021, lawmakers in the Florida Senate and House voted to override the local effort with a state law that says local authorities can't pass ballot initiatives or referendums that limit maritime commerce. According to Keys Weekly, the issue of limiting cruise ship calls on Key West is not yet dead. Advocates for cruise ship control are urging the city to turn the referendums into ordinances, which are not covered by state law. So what do you think? I'd love to hear your opinion down in the comments below. Do you think that the citizens of Key West should be allowed to say, hey, no more cruise ships stopping in our town? Go ahead and leave that comment below. I really love looking at what you guys and gals have to say. Now let's get into a story coming out from cruisecenter.com about the way NCL Cruise Lines is treating their crew members, and it sounds like things aboard NCL for the crew members have gotten so bad that they felt it necessary to pen a letter and send it up the grapevine to explain, hey, we don't feel like we're being treated fairly. Let's go ahead and find out what the crew had to say. Letter from NCL crew member. We are being held to criteria not dictated by safety and perceived risk factor. After Cruise Center published 2 letters sent by crew members on board Norwegian Cruise Line ships, more people are raising their voices about the current situation and decided to stand for their right to be granted shore leave. Today, Cruise Center received a 3rd letter, this time from another crew member aboard the Norwegian Breakaway. The letter speaks of growing support by the crew as many believe they've been treated consciously unfairly by NCL. The crew member wishes to remain anonymous but described in depth the absurd situations when some regulations and restrictions are applied to daily operations on NCL ships. And we'll go ahead and read a little bit of this letter. I'm going to pick out some of the more important parts for you. Dear Sir or Madam at NCL Cruise Lines, I'm writing to you upon being informed that crew members are denied port access at the company's behest. I'm a returning employee to NCL, having completed contracts prior to the COVID pandemic, and am currently aboard Norwegian Breakaway. I was aware of the inherent differences that would be enforced due to the incredibly complex challenges of providing a cruise service under these conditions upon signing of my cruise contract. However, that contract was signed in the good faith that the company would treat its employees fairly and permit behaviors as they were deemed acceptable and safe to themselves. The crew member goes on to say, instead, what I have found is that we're being held to criteria not dictated by safety or perceived risk factor, but of the company's own, which, not being communicated openly, is acting in its own self-interest, inherently monetarily motivated, and taking advantage of the good faith of its employees. The letter goes on to say that Norwegian Cruise Lines is charging crew upwards of $11 for deodorant and even $12.60 for tampons on board. And the crew member is sort of accusing NCL of capturing the crew and forcing them to buy all their needed products and toiletries directly from the cruise line at a markup. The letter goes on to say the company is in essence creating and perpetuating a manipulative consumerist environment for their employees, refusing to let them go ashore in visited countries to purchase items that they need. And that last part was me paraphrasing what the author had sort of said in in the paragraph before. So this is as good a time as any to remind you not to forget about doing something special for the crew on board your next cruise. Most of the crew on these ships has not been able to get off of the cruise ship since the beginning of their contracts. For some of them, it's been going on 6 months that they haven't seen dry land. And to be perfectly honest, I'm not surprised that it's the Norwegian Cruise Line employees that have to speak up, because their president and CEO of Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings, Frank Del Rio, is very much a my way or the highway kind of guy. He's not the kind of guy that's going to listen to feedback from people coming up from his company. All he seemingly cares about is his own opinions, and that's my opinion. But you guys are free to share yours down in the comments below. While you're down there, make sure you subscribe to the Midships channel with the bell notifications turned on. Thanks so much for stopping by the channel today, and until next time, we'll see you on the Midships.